Hello students, in this video you are going to learn about a very important topic in mathematics, that is trigonometry. So first learn what is trigonometry. As this title suggests, the tri represent 3, that is triangle, and metry means measure. So triangle measure. Triangle measure. So in triangle, this figure has 3 sides and 3 angles, something like this. Listen students, this video is not intended to explain the type of triangles, but we are going to focus on a special triangle called a right angle triangle. In fact, the entire trigonometry deals with the right angle triangle. Of course, the calculations, the measurements can be applied for all other triangles, which we are going to do later. To understand the basic fundamentals of the trigonometry, we first learn about the geometry and the basic fundamentals of right angle triangle. That is the first thing. As I said, for any triangle, there are 3 sides and 3 angles. Trigonometry, the core principle of trigonometry is about the relations between the sides and the angles. So we can actually measure the sides if we are provided with an angle and vice versa. We are going to get more insight about the sides and angles of a right triangle. So let me first cleanly explain the right triangle, then we can move on to the next part. Okay, so for a right triangle, this is a right triangle. Look at that. One of its angles is 90 degree. That is right angle 90 degree. And the other 2 angles are acute angles, theta, and this can be represented 90 minus theta. So I am going to label the vertices of this triangle. Let me label this point as O, this point as A, and this point as B. Look at that, the angle is formed between line OA and AB. That is theta, which is acute angle. Acute angles are less than 90 degree. Less than 90 degree. So the one of the angles of the right triangle is 90 degree and the other 2 is going to be acute angles that must be less than 90 degree. So this is a basic fundamental idea about the right triangle. So as I said, the trigonometry core principle built on the relations between sides and the angles. In fact, we have to talk in terms of ratio of sides and angles. That is the correct way of representing. So the ratio of Ratio of sides and angles. Now, let me give you an intuitive explanation about the side. Side is a measure of length. For example, we can measure the length from point O to point A, point O to point A by a length. Say for example 10 meter. I can measure in a length. Similarly, I can measure the length of OAB in meter. So this is also a length. So it is going to be expressed in terms of meter. The unit of length is meter. And again, the length AB also meter. So we have to understand that the length of the side of the triangle measured in meter. So the length of the triangle measured in meters. This is the first thing you have to understand. The next is angles. How angle is measured or how angle is found. First we have to understand that. When we have a line and another line that intersect at a common point. Say for example line A, line B intersect at a common point called vertex. The angle between line B and line A is going to be expressed as a theta. So in order to form an angle, we need two kind of stick. Look at this. The angle is formed between my fingers. As I fixing one of my finger and rotating another finger, the angle can be adjusted. The more you rotate, the more the angle becomes. So this is how the angle is formed. In order to form an angle, we need two lines that must be intersect at a point called vertex. The angle between the two lines is going to be represented as theta. So any line intersect at a common point can create an angle. Look at this example. In our stage, line OA, line AB intersect point at A. So angle is created. Similarly, line OB and OA intersect at point O, angle created. So you must have to understand how angle can be created. We need two lines to intersect at a point or a common point called vertex. That is very, very important. Okay. How can we measure the angles? What is the unit of angle? The unit of angle is degree measures. So unit of angle is degree measures. Unit of angle, or angle can be measured in degrees. Degree. So now look at that. As the trigonometry says, it is going to relate the length of the sides and the angles of the between the sides, which means both are completely different units. For example, degree measures is completely different, length measure is completely different. But when we have a ratio of any two sides of this triangle, when we have a ratio of this triangle, that can be related to the angle. This is the heart of our main fundamental or core principle of trigonometry. We are going to take the ratio of any two sides of this triangle. So ratio of two sides of the triangle. And that is going to be related to the angle between the two sides. That is the core fundamental idea about trigonometry. If you understand this, it will be clear to understand for every single concept in trigonometry. Let me summarize what we learned today. The first thing is trigonometry word. That word can be expressed in terms of triangle measurement. What is triangle? It is a three-side enclosed figure. It has three sides and three angles. Of course, there are many types of triangle, but this video is not intended to explain the type of triangles is there. But when trigonometry, we use only right triangle to represent the sides and the angles. So the heart of the main focus of the trigonometry is ratio of sides and the angles. I explained how the length of each side of this triangle can be expressed in meters. Like we have three sides like OA, AB and OB. We have OA side, we have AB side, we have OB side. This can be expressed in meters. So meter is the length of or unit of length, that you have to be very careful. The next thing is how angle can be formed. How angle can be. In order to form an angle, we need two sides, the side 1 and side 2. Look at that. When it intersects, it creates an angle. When it intersects, it creates an angle. So now we know that the common point should be represented as vertex or common point. The angle between the two sides can be represented with the letter theta. So the theta. Here in our case, the side OA and OB having the common vertex at point A. So the angle created between OA and AB. What is the unit of angle or how angle can be measured? We use degree unit to measure angles. Look at that. There is a huge relation or a very important relationship between meter expressed, that is length is measured in meters, whereas theta measures in degrees. So in the next video, we are going to understand the relationship between meter and degree. When we have one side in terms of meter and the other side in terms of meter and the numerator denominator, that is represented in terms of angles. So that is the main fundamental or core principle in trigonometry. We have to understand that the sides or the ratio of the sides related to the angle between the sides. Hope you understand or hope you get the point of the fundamental principle or fundamental core principle of trigonometry. In the next video, you will be learning about naming of the sides and a little bit, more detailed version of trigonometry. Thank you very much for listening.